What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Now this is going to be the final video of 2020, and I just want to send a very huge thank you to everyone who has supported this channel this year. We have seen an unbelievable growth, and I'm super looking forward to see what 2021 brings. This video is going to be part 3 of my 3-part sport collection series on the 2021 PBA shark oil pattern. Stay tuned after the intro. In this part 3 of my sport collection series, Andrew and myself were bowling on the 48-foot PBA shark oil pattern. Part 1 of the series was on the 36-foot Viper, and part 2 was on the 41-foot Bear. Now, this shark pattern, surprisingly, was the easiest of the 3, despite it being the longest. Historically, I do not super match up on these longer patterns, obviously because of my rev rate. One of the questions I get asked all the time are what are the differences between these PBA patterns and the typical house shots. Now, the biggest and most glaring difference between the sport shots and the typical house shots are the ratios. On the house shots, the ratios are usually like 7-to-1, 8-to-1, 9-to-1. So what that means is that in the middle part of the lane, there's a ton of oil, and then in the outside part of the lane, there's not a lot of oil. So when you miss right if you're a righty, or if you miss left if you're a lefty, there's going to be extra friction, which will allow your ball to hook. And then if you miss inside into that puddle of oil, the ball isn't going to overhook. On these sport shots, the ratio is usually like 3-to-1, 2-to-1, even 1-to-1. So there's going to be a higher concentration of oil in the outside part of the lane. So if you miss right if you're a righty, or left if you're a lefty, there isn't going to be much recovery room at all. And then if you miss left, because there isn't a huge puddle in the middle, the ball is just going to take off. If you guys like this video and want to see more content like this in the future, I would super appreciate if you hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date every time I drop a new video. It helps me so much the more you guys like the videos and the more you guys are subscribing. There's a bunch of links in the description to everything that I use to make these videos. From the camera to the bowling balls, the bags, the chamois, everything is in the link. So I would super appreciate it if you guys check it out. This 2021 shark pattern is 48 feet, has a ratio of 2-to-1, and has 26 mils. So of the 3 patterns that I did in this series, the shark is the longest and has the least amount of oil. So using the rule of 31, I'll take the 48 feet of the pattern minus 31 is 17. So ideally on the fresh, you want your ball to be at the 17 board at 48 feet. Now this is just a starting guide, like I've said before. The type of ball that you use, the bowling center that you're at, there's so many factors to determine where you're actually going to be playing, but this is a very good starting guide. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys have ever bowled on some of these PBA patterns and what you think about them compared to your typical house shot. In this video, Andrew and myself only threw 2 balls each. I started with a Forge Flare and then transitioned to a Venom Shock, and then Andrew started with a Forge Fire and then transitioned to a Venom Shock. I'm going to take you guys on the lanes now so you can see Andrew and myself navigate this 2021 PBA shark oil pattern. Thank you guys for joining Andrew and myself as we navigate through this 2021 PBA shark oil pattern. Now, going into this pattern, I gotta admit, I was extremely nervous because I historically, just to be frank, I suck on long. But of the 3 patterns that we filmed for this series, this shark was easily the easiest one for myself. And I think that's because my misses typically are not right. On a pattern that's this long, you cannot miss right. It doesn't matter how much rev rate you have. If you miss right, there is 0 recovery. So for me, I'm really good at keeping my angles in front of me. And on a pattern like this, you must shut down your angles. Andrew had an amazing look right from the fresh. I think that for me, I started a little bit too far to the right. And then once I started to see a little bit of early hook and I chased it in a little bit, is when I started to see a much better look, much in the way that Andrew did. This pattern definitely played on the weird side. It was the longest pattern that we shot in this series, but it also had the least amount of volume. So we saw the transition happen a lot faster than we did on Viper and we did on Shark. Now, because the pattern was so long, there was a humongous out of bounds to the right, especially early on. I think Andrew and myself did a fantastic job at breaking down this pattern the right way. It got to a point where this pattern actually was easy-ish. Like I've always said, these patterns will never be easy, but they will definitely become manageable. So both Andrew and myself started with a similar bowling ball. I started with a Forge Flare and Andrew started with the Forge Fire. So the same core was used, but different covers. Andrew's ball is a hybrid and mine is a solid. Both of them had about a 1000 grit finish. And like I said before, we were trying to play them as straight as possible so that later on in the video, we can develop a bit of a hook spot so that later on, if we miss right, there will be some sort of bump. And we broke this down the absolute right way. I've said before that if you break down these sport shots the wrong way, they will go from hard to almost impossible. And I think that the longer the pattern is, the more cautious you have to be in the way you play them on the fresh. This pattern being 48 feet, if you start too far to the left and don't develop anything to the right, they can be, brutal. For someone like me who's on the lower end of the rev rate spectrum and I come around the ball a little bit, it was really important for me to be as forward as possible and making sure that I'm getting a handful of the ball every single time. Someone like Andrew, who naturally has a very high rev rate and naturally is very forward with his ball roll, is always going to see a lot of success on these patterns. Now, the most important thing always is going to be accuracy and the ability to repeat shots. When you look at someone like Norm Duke, for example, his rev rate is not very high, but he can repeat shot after shot after shot, which is going to be the biggest thing. Now, this is the beauty of bowling. Andrew and myself have two completely different games, but both of us are finding a way to get the ball to the pocket and actually carrying a lot of strikes. I am playing them significantly straighter than Andrew is. As you can see, Andrew is creating a little bit of a belly through the front part of the lane, and that's because the volume is on the lower end. As we get through this video and get closer towards the end, you're going to see that even myself with the lower rev rate is still going to be creating a little bit of a belly despite this pattern being 48 feet. I really like the look that Andrew and myself had on the lanes with these forges. And then once we went into the Venom Shock later on and moved even further left, I thought the look looked even better. So if I'm recommending to someone what bowling ball to throw on this 48-foot shark pattern, the one thing that I would say is bring a bowling ball that has enough surface that you're going to be able to get it into a roll as soon as possible, but a ball that's not overly strong that's still going to find a way to shape in the back part of the lane. So for me, the Forge Flare on the fresh was like the perfect bowling ball because it's very strong in the front and it shapes down lane. And then Andrew had a very strong core in that Forge Fire, but the cover isn't overly strong and was very responsive to the friction. The goal on the fresh is to try to break it down to the point where you can move left and bump it off that spot, which is what we're doing right now. Andrew and myself, both in the Venom Shock, was the best look that we had on the lanes. But the reason that look was so good is because we broke them down the right way. So remember before when I said that we broke them down to a point where this pattern actually became easy-ish? Well, this is the part that I was referring to. Because we broke them down the right way, Andrew and myself have an unbelievable look on the lanes. So for me personally, I'm okay with grinding out a 180, 190 game one if it means I'm going to break down the pattern the right way and have something developed so that I can shoot bigger scores later on. I have no doubt in my mind that if we were bowling for score, Andrew and myself would be in the 240s, 250s every game on this lane that we're bowling on right now. Now, there is this one thing that I want to say before we end this video and end this series. If you're someone who's looking to become a better bowler and bowl more tournaments on sport patterns and just want to be better in general, the only way to do that is to get out and bowl on these patterns. The one big thing that I suggest is go to your local bowling center, talk to the manager, let them know that you are interested in becoming a better bowler and see if they're willing to help you out. And to be honest, if they're not willing to help you out, then you need to find a different bowling center that will help you out. Also, getting better on these patterns is going to make you a much better bowler on house as well. You have to be significantly more accurate on these sport shots than you do on house. So if you can find a way to become accurate on the sport patterns, you are going to be incredibly accurate in your typical house shot leagues. It happens all too often for Andrew and myself that we have really high scores on the house shot after we're done bowling on these sport shots. So as we near end to this video, again, I just want to say thank you guys so much for the unbelievable support that you guys have shown in 2020. I'm really looking for 2021 to be an even better year and for me to bring even better content to you guys. So have a great new year, stay safe, and most importantly, get motivated. Well, there you have it, folks. There's the 2021 PBA Shark Oil Pattern. Let me know down below in the comments what you guys thought about this video, and if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And this being the final video of 2020, I just want to say Happy New Year, and I'll see you guys next year. Click right here to watch one of my other videos. Click right here to subscribe. Till next year, guys.